Can you imagine asking your parents to give them a tantric massage? And my mom was like, okay. My brother was also, okay.
Welcome to Rising with Gaia. This is a space for conversations with humans who are devoted in their own unique ways to healing, building, and contributing to the collective rising and consciousness of humanity and the earth. I'm your host, Malvina, and each episode we'll be chatting with healers, builders, change makers, and visionaries who are walking unique paths in service of something greater than themselves. Today's guest is Noel Tuan, the co-founder of the Ark Studio here in Singapore, and he is an Akashic Records practitioner, Kundalini Yoga teacher, sound healer, and someone whose journey has beautifully reflected the multidimensionality of what it means to live consciously. Before stepping fully into this path, Noel spent years in investment banking while also building an internationally acclaimed organic raw food business, competing as an athlete. Very, very cool. Yes, you might have some stories to share about that later. Producing musical theater and exploring many different layers of the human experience. What I really appreciate about Noel is his willingness to embrace the fullness and the complexity of being human, bridging the spiritual and the grounded and like the mystical and the practical ways of approaching this journey. So in this conversation, we'll be exploring awakening, identity, conscious sexuality, spirituality, and what it really means to walk a path of authenticity and service. Welcome, Noel.
Thank you for having me, Melvina. What a beautiful introduction. I wish I was capable of saying that about myself, but thank you.
Well, that is you. So yeah, I wanted to know because of your background, like you've lived such a colorful life. I feel like you've lived so many different lives within this incarnation, within this journey. Having come from like a world of banking, like coming from a world of, let's just call it like 3D for now, for the sake of this conversation.
Okay.
What changed for you? What was this deep longing or thing that you had within you that you feel like you were maybe seeking something more?
Yeah, I think throughout my life, I was always wanting more. I think that is my finite self searching for something infinite. And when it first started, it was through having good grades, being good at sports, being good at dance. And then eventually, after graduation, it was about making more money and climbing the corporate ladder.
Mm.
Right? So I wanted more, 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 more. And I think at one stage in my life, I then asked myself, how much more will it ever be enough to satiate me with whatever I'm doing? And I realized it would never. I can continue to climb the corporate ladder, being global head or something or whatnot, and making lots of money, own various properties all around the world. But what is the purpose of it all? So that was really always at the back of my mind.
What did you feel like was the threshold? Like, when was it like, okay, enough? Like, I need to actually change something because I've tried also so many different things and nothing really has satiated me. Nothing has fulfilled me. Like, what was your threshold?
So my breaking point at that point was my then fiance breaking up with me. And then she went to learn the Akashic Records and came back and wanted to do a reading for me. And I didn't believe a single bit of all this. To me, this was all hocus pocus. And it's for people who are emotionally weak, who did not have anything to hold on to, no sense of self, which is why they turn to spirituality or religion for an answer. So when she did the reading, I didn't believe it. She invited the teacher to come to Hong Kong to teach, and my intention was to learn and then tell her that all this is nonsense. So I attended the class with that idea, but the opposite happened. When I first entered the Akashic Records, I felt so much love that in my whole human experience in this lifetime, I've never experienced anything like that before. So I said to myself that, okay, I truly believe that you, the Akashic Records, exists. Because at that moment of time, I said, if After attending the whole class, at the end, we were going to go into the records. I said, I don't believe a single thing that is being said during this whole course. So I challenged the universe. I said, if you, the Akashic Records, truly exist, I need to see a sign. Otherwise, I'm not going to believe this. And hold and behold, when I went into the Akashic Records, all this love came down. And I was like, okay, you've proven a point. I believe you're there, and I'll work hard to connect with you. So that really was the start of how all this opened up for me.
Mm. And for those who do not know, are you able to share what the Akashic Records is? Yeah.
Yeah. So the Akashic Records is sometimes known as the Book of Life. It is universal consciousness. It is space, or Akash is actually space all around us. If you tap into Hindu mysticism, there are five elements: of fire, air, water, and the last one is ether, which is space, or Akash. So the Akashic Records is tapping into the space to get information about our past, present, and possible future. It is infinite in nature. It has the ability to tap into all sorts of masters, teachers, and loved ones to speak in dialogue with you. So it has been my primary tool since that moment of time till today, to guide me in my journey through life. So that is the Akashic Records.
So what did the Akashic Records actually initially show you that helped change so
So
much?
this was quite interesting because I was not very tapped into my clear senses. Being a banker, being a person who loved to work with numbers, figures, and facts, tapping into this realm of possibility, tapping into something that you cannot grasp onto, something that is so subtle, so creative in nature, was actually very challenging for me. So I didn't have good sense. I wasn't in touch with my clairsenses as much as it is today. So seeing, which I think most people easily grasp onto, which is the clairvoyant ability, was actually elusive to me. So I actually spent a good amount of time thereafter. Because of that one-time connection that I have with the Akashic Records, I spent every single day, half an hour, I will go into the park or meditation or into the meeting room in the office, and I will open my Akashic Records and I just sit in it, even though I had no guidance, no sight or nothing. But yeah, so I think this went on for about 6 months, every single day, and I kept trying to get into the Akashic Records. I was inside, but I just felt so, my senses were so numb to it that I had to resensitize myself to become sensitive to what was being shared with me. And because my teacher shared then that everybody should be able to see, that was very, very challenging for me because up to today, my clairvoyant abilities is not very strong, despite doing this for already more than 10 years. My other clairsenses are stronger, so I worked through my own way to finally get more clarity from the Akashic Records. But what really opened it all up was actually an image of a past life that came through from the Akashic Records. It showed me how back then I was a Japanese soldier in one of the world wars, and I complied to whatever society expected of me. I would die for my country if my country wanted me to die. Right? I was brainwashed into a thing whereby I didn't have my own will, I didn't have my own identity. It was defined by the world around me. So when that past life showed, and the lesson behind it was that you just need to embrace who you are, not follow society's norms, whatever people say. You just need to follow your own guidance. You need to be a sovereign being. When that showed up and that dissolved and I integrated that lesson, I felt like my clairsenses really opened up and I became a lot more sensitive to the Akashic Records. So yeah, so that's how my journey led me to delving deeper into all of this.
Wow. That's like such a shift from, throughout your journey and for you to be able to realize that, especially so early on. Was it like an easy transition for you?
So here's what's quite interesting. My journey as a kid, I was born Catholic, which is why my name is Noel. So it was given to me because it's supposed to be Christmas. And so I was baptized at birth. I went to church when I was younger. But because there were Sunday cartoons, so I chose to stay at home instead of going to church. Then somewhere along the way, when my parents divorced, I was actually introduced to Buddhism, Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism. And I felt very called to learn that, even though it was introduced to my mom, who never practiced. I embraced it. And one of the practices is to recite the sutras and mantras facing the east once in the morning and in the evening. So as a 12-year-old, maybe 13, yes, 13-year-old, I did that every morning and every night. So I was in the morning school. I had to go to school. I had to wake at 6, and I shifted my waking up timing to 5:30 in the morning. And I dedicated myself to do this every single day of my life for the next 4 years, just to practice on my own. I managed to memorize the whole sutra. It started off with having to read it for 30 minutes. I memorized the whole sutra. I could recite it in 15 minutes. It was non-repetitious. But I always had this devotion to connecting deeper. And the only reason why I left that practice is because I felt that the people around me could not give me answers. They were constantly asking me to chant and simply wait for the wisdom to come, and that would resolve everything in my life. And that made no sense. I wanted a relationship with that higher power instead of a monologue where I just had to wait for things to happen and pray that it was being received on the other end. So I left that practice, and after that 4 years of dedicated practice, I actually became an atheist. I didn't believe in any of this anymore, simply because I didn't have answers. But the moment I sparked that connection with the Akashic Records, that changed everything for me, because now I had a direct relationship with the divine. I could relate with the divine directly, get messages, ask, and get a response. So that really helped open everything up. So I guess the foundations that I had when I was younger, that devotion, that dedication, helped fuel this part of me the moment I received that spark from the Akashic Records.
All I could think about was when you're sharing about, your childhood and the religious aspects. Oh my gosh, it's such a Sagittarius thing that you've been through all these and like it's changed and you continue to explore until you found something that really landed and resonated for you. Because yeah, one thing that I know of you and about you is like you like to question things and yeah, and you're very, very devoted, given like I mean, for those who don't know, like I mentioned earlier, Noel is a Kundalini Yoga facilitator, practitioner. And no, yesterday morning was like my first ever yoga, Kundalini Yoga at like 4:30 in the morning. And from what I know from Noel, he continues to practice and continue to do trainings, right? Like it's so devotional and yeah, inspiring to see the way that you continue to show up again and again. And yeah, so it seems like it's just been so present for you ever since you were younger. But now you finally found something that you resonate with, that you can form your own personal relationship with.
Yeah, and to me, that is very, very important. And I feel like that is actually what a lot of people in the world is missing. I think in religion itself, unfortunately, I also felt that distance in, be it in Buddhism or in my Catholic church days. I felt like there wasn't this direct connection with the divine or God, you call it, right? And most people actually did it through a conduit, which is usually a pastor or somebody in the religious space. There was never that direct connection. So it's been such a blessing to have been able to get in touch with the Akashic Records. And that itself opened the various doors and possibilities and opportunities that have been presented to me throughout my lifetime. So I would say I've been very blessed to have this opportunity to actually be in touch with them in this lifetime. Yeah.
What do you feel it is about like certain beliefs or so-called like religion, organized religion, or ways that like you said, there's like usually a conduit. Why do you feel like that didn't work for you?
Yeah, the conduit doesn't work for me because it's always open and subject to interpretation. So rather than speaking to, for example, a common friend directly, I speak through you and then you speak to that common friend. What was going to happen is the message gets diluted by your own lenses, and I actually don't get to build a direct relationship with that common friend because I'm building this relationship with you. So a lot of that time and resource developing this relationship with you doesn't actually strengthen my relationship with this common friend. So I personally like to work with things direct at the source in all the work that I do. I feel that it's the cleanest, it's the most direct, literally coming from the horse's mouth itself, rather than through somebody in between who can have tainted lenses, misinterpret, or sometimes pass on the wrong message because it got lost in translation.
Mm,
So, yeah, that's why I work directly with the Akashic Records. And I
mm.
do suggest and recommend everybody to work direct with whichever lineage they're working with rather than through a conduit.
What do you feel like, or how do you feel like this speaks to like giving, empowering people to trust their own connection? Because I feel like a lot of people seek someone like a guide or someone put pedestalize someone within their, whether it's community or like within an organized system, because maybe there's something that they don't trust within themselves, so they rely on an outside, I know, power or authority to tell them what to do.
So here is something interesting that I always say. The first thing is to first develop a relationship with yourself, right? If we don't even have a relationship with ourselves, don't even trust ourselves, how can we even trust another and have a relationship with another when you don't even know how to relate with yourself first? So I think it always starts with that. So trust needs to be developed. Trust with yourself needs to be developed. And I've been quite blessed that I've always been a bit arrogant or prideful about myself, right? So in a lot of ways, I perhaps overtrust my own capabilities and myself. So to develop that, and you definitely need assurance and proof that you're on the right track. So for me as well, the Akashic Records constantly give me signs, symbols, recognition that this is truly the work being manifested in this reality. Like I said, I love to work with numbers and probability and facts and figures. And the guidance that has been shown to me, initially I doubted, how can I know something before it happens? How do I know things that I've never physically came into contact with? How can I feel and know all these things? But through the work of the Akashic Records, through each time I interact with them, this trust just gets deeper and deeper. Until today, there is an unwavering trust that I simply surrender to them. I trust that they have got my back. I work together with the Akashic Records to make manifest things in this reality. So, baby steps.
Yeah, it's amazing. What do you feel like you had to unlearn when first stepping into this work and this path? Was there anything in your life that had to kind of, I mean, and maybe there's a lot, I don't know, but yeah, if there are things that you really had to peel off and change.
Yeah, the answer to this was everything. It was such a difficult journey to navigate. I questioned every single thing I did. Like if I were to give up a seat in the MRT or the MTR in Hong Kong, was I doing this because I genuinely wanted to do it, or is it because I was brainwashed by the government, propaganda, media to do something like that? You know, if I was being polite to somebody on the street, was this me, or was this once again training from my parents about the way that I should be, the way that I worked? was this me, or once again, was this programmed into me through the 30 years that I have lived my life? So I had to re-question every single thing that I believed in. And this ended up with honest conversations that I had to have with my mom as well. One of the things that she didn't want me to learn was to learn how to ride a motorcycle. Because at a young age, one of her friend's son passed away because he was riding a motorcycle. And she ingrained in me that I should never learn it because she was fearful of my own safety. And I complied, but a part of me was always yearning to do it. So I had to make a conversation with my mom. I called her and said, Mom, I love you and I know you love me, which is why you have always wanted me to stay away from a motorcycle. But I just want to tell you that I want to do it. I want to learn. And learning will actually make me safer on the road. And if I do pass away riding a motorcycle, then at least you have the assurance that I did something that I enjoyed while passing and not holding in regret that I never tried. So I had to have this kind of conversations with people I hold dear to dissolve, break away from who I thought I was, who society expected me to be, to come into what I felt was my authentic self.
So you really had to like fine tune that. I wouldn't really call it discernment, but that reconnection and reconnecting and recognizing and getting to know yourself again.
Yes, I had to question every single action that I did, every single thought that came through my head, and the way that I interacted with the world. So it was challenging. And this also extended to relationships. As a kid, because of my mom's divorce, my mom said that, you can only love and love one person only, right? And that became my mantra. Like, I will never be like my dad, because my dad had a second marriage and all. He loved more than one. And I was like, and that created so much resistance in me because a part of me felt like I could love many. But the moral side of me, the ethical side, my mom speaking to me was like, you should not be doing this. You're not an ethical guy. So I had to find my own ways to traverse this as ethically as I could. So it was a good thing to have that and to realize who I was and how to bring all these parts of me into integration and into authenticity. So yeah, it was really a long journey. I would have to say I actually spent a whole year really questioning myself. Who am I? And that was always at the back of my head for that 1 year. Until one day I was like, I think I've dissolved enough of my old self to come into this being and I'll continue to discover who I am.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah. Oof. Sorry, I was just like feeling into my own ways of dismantling,
Mm.
all these like old identities. Like if I'm responding to something because out of ego, out of fear, out of conditioning, like how am I able to find my center? How do I make sure that this choice is mine and I'm doing it because it is what's truthful for
Mm.
me? And I feel like, yeah, that's the only way to do it. I mean, to be able to experience life from that lens, although it has its challenges, its liberation also, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like once you go through that journey, a lot of old relationships will drop off because they were based on an image
Mm,
that I created for myself. Like, this is who I wanted to be versus who I truly am.
mm,
So that definitely dissolved a lot of old relationships who clinged on to who I was. And then it started me with new relationships with people embracing who I simply was.
mm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm.
So, what do you think people often misunderstand about like awakening or when people are moving through spiritual transformation?
I think the common misdirection or confusion that happens because of what society has shared with us, I think a lot of people actually go through, like what we talked about earlier, actually working with conduits or people to pass on the messages, and they feel like this is their way towards God or divinity or that awakening. And even if they do embrace it, it's not truly devotional. It's not a complete surrenderance. It is often because I'm desperate, I have no other choice. I'll do it now. When life gets better, I'll talk to you later. When life gets worse again and when I'm out of solutions, right? So I noticed this amongst many, where they've looked for this so-called awakening as a quick fix to their problems. And once the problem resolves, they are back on their way and forgetting where the truth truly lies, and that the true relationship that needs to be developed is one that is direct to the divine. So that's what I notice in this awakening process. People get that spark and sometimes go back to their old ways of beings because there are no more difficulties. The problem was resolved and we go back to business as usual.
Yeah. And I feel like, yeah, it's such a common thing, even in religious settings. I've noticed because I grew up in the Philippines and the whole country is predominantly Catholic as well. And it's something that sometimes I observe the people who are not extremely religious, but still Catholic and not practicing, they only really go to church when they really need something. Yeah, but like you said, it is an ongoing relationship to the divine, being on this path and this journey. So, yeah, and I feel like you've embodied so much of that through the way that you're living. But I am curious because of your multidimensional and multifaceted background, from banking, from being an athlete, being a dancer, being a boxer. Okay, so for context, Noel, you want to share? Noel used to fight in a ring. Just kidding. Or was it a one-time thing? I don't know.
It is a one-time thing. So it is just some context. So this is like me reliving my childhood. So as a kid, I actually wanted to learn how to fight,
Mm.
right? But I didn't have that opportunity, or rather that opportunity was taken away from me. So I left it at a back burner, telling myself, okay, it's not going to happen. But of course, the moment I grew older and I had my own resources, I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn how to fight. So I actually went to take Muay Thai classes, which I really, really loved. As when I was in my banking days, I would go for Muay Thai maybe 2 or 3 times a week, while still being in the gym and all of that. So I really enjoyed fighting. And then there was this opportunity in the same gym. There was another fellow Singaporean. This was all in Hong Kong, who went to the same gym. And he was training then with I think he is the representative of Hong Kong. There was a boxer. I think his name was Ray. He was the representative of Hong Kong. So he was a really, really skilled fighter, boxer. And my friend was training under him. So he called me out. He said that, there's this white collar boxing competition coming up, and I can't find anybody my size. And you're about my size, so we're quite small Asian guys. He was still heavier than me by maybe about 5 kg or 6 kg. And he said, would you like to take part in this competition? And I said, I've never boxed in my life. Okay, I've only done Muay Thai and it's a very different fundamentals because you can do your kicks and all that. And he said, yeah, why don't you think about it? And then I thought about it. And I was like, why not? I'm up for the challenge. This is for charity. It's going to be my first time fighting somebody competitively. And then my competitive nature was like, I'm going to kick his ass. And so I was like, okay, you're up for it. I've got 3 months to train. I'm going to hire myself a coach and I'm going to start training aggressively. So I did hire my own coach, went through the whole boxing regime, had to learn all the basics, skip rope and all of that. get the footwork, bought my shoes, bought my boxing gloves, bought everything I needed, and I competed. I competed in the ring for charity, and thankfully I won.
Woo! Amazing. There's a video on YouTube, guys. Maybe if I'm feeling sneaky, I'll put it in the show notes. But it
Those were the
also goes
crazy
to
days.
show like your devotion and your commitment it also spills in other aspects of your life, right?
I think it's also pride, you
Yeah.
know. I think this is like a kid going into a playground and finally getting to enjoy the ride that you've been
Mm.
wanting to sit for the longest time. And a part of me was like, oh, I finally get to box, and it's my first competition. I don't want to lose, right? So I spent so much time, energy, I was so strict on my diet, so strict on my training, while still working in the bank, mind you. And because of their pride, and I shared this with Melvina, that, you know, I got myself vertigo. So because of the training, I had to train with people bigger than me. Like I said, I was the shortest and smallest person in the whole competition. Yeah, in the whole competition. I think there were 12 of us. So I had to spar with my peers, obviously not with my competitor. And they were all bigger than me. So even though I was sparring with the girls, I can tell you one box and literally the world spin and never stopped spinning. So I had permanent vertigo from that. So once in a while, whenever I'm not feeling well, the vertigo comes back. So far, it's at bay for a long time, but sometimes it creeps in slowly. So that's the price you pay for wanting to put your ego on the line.
Worth it?
For the experience, yes.
Okay.
If you, on hindsight, if I could do this in a safer and younger time, I would definitely have preferred. But like it is what it is. We did a
Well,
good thing for charity.
yeah, and it's not
Mhm.
often that you get into boxing like initially and get into a ring
Yes,
shortly
exactly.
after. Okay, so yeah, you did your athletics, you had your athletic nature, and then you explored conscious, yeah, have conscious sexuality in your background, theater, business, spirituality. How was it like? Like, how do you embrace all these different expressions of yourself, and how has this shaped your understanding of being on this human journey?
Yeah, I think I've been quite blessed to be able to have all these different experiences. And that's what I truly feel life is about. Life is about experiences. So if given an opportunity, if there's something new that I can try, something that I can learn, somewhere I can travel to, I would love to embrace that opportunity to do that. And that has definitely opened up a lot of doors for me, like you mentioned, right? Through my younger days, be it trying to be an athlete, trying to one day pick up dance. You know, I'm not the best, you know, but a part of me always wanted to, watching all the MTVs and watching all the cool guys and girls dance. I was like, oh, I want to try to dance like them. And that inspired me to do it. So it's really about knowing that this is a part of me, and that actually opens up all the how would I say it? It actually opens up my understanding of the world. So it's not like a box that I'm limited to. It's always multidimensional. If you want to talk about finance, we can. If you want to talk about dance, we can. If you want to talk about the theaters, happy to share my experiences, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't restrict me as a person. So that curious part of me, that wanting to try, I definitely need to try things to know whether I like it. So I would say I definitely have tried a lot. You know, your wakeboarding, your surfing, your windsurfing, diving. I'm a rescue diver. I'm a master diver, not master diver, rescue diver and advanced diver. But once I tried it, and I know that this is it, it's cataloged in my history that okay, I've done that. I'm done with it, and then I just simply move on to the next thing that is calling me. And this really then shows what I am dedicated to and what I like. Because things that I'm dedicated to, I stick to them for the longest of time. Akashic Records, like you mentioned, it's been 10, 11 years that since I've been practicing. It's still part of my everyday. Kundalini Yoga is something I picked up in 2018. And until today, it's part of my everyday. So, yeah, things that I truly resonate with sticks with me. Otherwise, I'll say, yep, I tried it, done it. I have some information and knowledge about it, but that's not what my go-to is.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I was actually gonna start asking about like at which point did it occur to you that, hey, I actually want to serve and offer these modalities, this medicine to people?
Yeah, so the calling actually came in 2016 and 2016. I had this very strong calling from the Akashic Records. I was running my business then. I already left the banking world. I decided to focus on my own organic raw food, vegan cafe, and food manufacturing business full time because I was always doing it part time on top of my investment banking job, doing the sales and finance of the company and as the co-founder. So in 2016, after we decided to want to revamp the whole company, where the company was called Anything But Salads. So because I didn't like to eat my vegetables, which is why I came up with this name called Anything But Salads for a vegan company. And when after we have presented to the whole team what Anything But Salads 2.0 was going to be, and this was going to be a big next step because we just expanded into having a bigger factory so we could have bigger manufacturing capabilities. And we were expanding aggressively already into a lot of the supermarkets and all over Hong Kong. And we were looking to also export this internationally to Singapore and to different retail outlets around the world. And I knew that once 2.0 started, it was going to have a lot more inertia to stop. So I really went and asked myself, is this really where I see myself going? Running this retail conglomerate so that we could continue to grow the business internationally. And this would take up a lot of my time and resources. And when I tuned in, I checked in with the Akashic Records and I asked myself that same question. I was like, no, it's time to close the business. So despite us already investing into a bigger factory, having the whole vision of the new line of products we were going to launch, how we were going to revamp our packaging and all of that, and already presenting it to my whole team, the next day I had to tell everybody we're closing the business down. Right? It was not the easiest of decision, but I felt like that was my calling. It was no longer about the business. It was a stepping stone to lead me to where I am today. So the moment the guidance came, it was like close down the business and start sharing the Akashic Records. And we will guide you. Work closely with us, and I say us as the Akashic Records. And we'll support you every step of the way. And I listened and I trusted and I did it.
And here you are continuing and showing up in your,
Yes.
actually that's how I first came across you before I even left my corporate job. Like I was, yeah, but I was already slowly transitioning into the conscious space, and I feel like sound healing is one of the initial entry points, I feel like, for conscious work. And then I saw Akashic Records as well. So yeah, you and your beautiful wife Fiona were the first two people that came up, and also because you guys have kind of set such, I would say, like, you guys were like pioneers of the conscious space here in Singapore, the conscious community here in Singapore, which is so incredible. And we can touch on that a little bit more later. But yeah, okay, no, just going back to how you came back to, or how you felt called to start serving, and all these different modalities started to come in. For those who don't know what Kundalini Yoga is, are you able to share a little bit about that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I also want to highlight that Fiona and I are definitely not the original change makers in this space. There were definitely pioneers that came before us. You know, we are quite new still, if I had to call it, into this space. There were people who were here way longer, I would say, but
Mm.
in this current time and age, definitely I would think that Fiona and I have a bigger presence in this community, and we support the community in what we do. But I really want to give gratitude to the people who came before us, who really paved the way to having all this access in Singapore itself, right?
Mm.
So I just wanted to highlight that. But okay, going back to about Kundalini Yoga. So Kundalini Yoga, and this was a very interesting part, and it actually links up back to where I left the story. So I was called by the Akashic Records to then share their work. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to be a yoga teacher. Because having been practicing yoga for years on my own, going to pure yoga and all of that to practice every other day, I was like, this is really something that people can benefit from. And I think that people need to learn more about consciousness through this practice, yoga. But the Akashic Records constantly said, no, you will not be sharing any of the styles of yoga that you have practiced so far. And I was like, then what? And it never gave me an answer because I just never had that answer in my path. It was not available, or it wasn't available yet. So I continued to practice yoga on my own, continued to try out different modalities until one day I went for a Kundalini Yoga class. I attended the Kundalini Yoga class. I was in my Akashic Records, and the Akashic Records was like, this is the yoga that you've been waiting for. So I was like blown away by the yoga experience first because it was so devotional. It had everything I was asking for in yoga. It had mantras, it had the breath, it had movement, it had energy flowing in it. So I was like, this is the yoga. This is the thing that I've been missing. I was like, the yoga I've been practicing, there were hardly any mantras. Nobody did anything. It was always quite a physical practice. So I immediately went to the teacher and I was like, I want to be a teacher. And he asked me, how many lessons have you attended? One. And he's like, I think you should go and try more classes. But I was so clear with the message, I immediately went to book myself, find the next teacher's training, and I signed up for it. And in the meantime, I did more classes. Right. So Kundalini Yoga itself is what we call the yoga of awareness, which is why I think it's very appropriate to the work that I've been doing. It is there to create more awareness in beings. We work with this thing called the Kundalini energy, which resides at the base of the spine. And it is said that when this Kundalini energy is more awakened, you are able to tap into more creative aspects of yourself. And I'm a big believer that the moment you tap into creativity, you no longer are restricted by the box because it is no longer a box. You are able to see beyond the box itself. So with this creative energy, you tap into sexual energy, you tap into life force energy, you become more aware of all your emotions, your mental state, your physical body, and your connection with the divine. So that is what I can say Kundalini Yoga is. We do asanas, we do breath work, we do bandhas with the purpose of channeling or redirecting energy. And we work with the chakras and we work with physical asanas. So yeah, that is what I would say Kundalini Yoga in a nutshell.
Mm. Yeah, it feels like very much in line to what you would share as well, due to the different layers that Kundalini Yoga offers, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because one thing that the Akashic Records was very clear. Theirs is a very subtle way of working with people. It is guidance. They're not a physical presence, right? They can't hold your hand and walk with you, even though they are metaphorically doing it. But in the physical essence, there's nothing to hold on to. But Kundalini Yoga is something that people can experience. We also call it the yoga of experience. So you practice it, you experience it, and you can feel the shifts in your body. You can immediately notice how your nervous system changes, such that you are able to deepen your connection with the breath. And through deepening that connection with the breath, you're able to then be able to connect deeper with the subtle things in life. And that can be the divine, or your clairsenses itself. And in Kundalini Yoga, we talk a lot about intuition. To me, that intuition is actually direct connection with the divine, even though it is not explicitly stated in the Kundalini Yoga teachings. It always talks about that your intuitive self, you will know what you need to do. I see that as the Akashic Records, being able to share guidance with people.
It's
Mm.
amazing. And how about Tantra and conscious sexuality? Yeah, are you able to share a little bit about that, your background, and how you got into it?
Yes. So my upbringing has always been conservative when it came to sexuality. So it was always about one partner and hopefully getting married. That was the idea. Just one and done deal. That was how I was taught. Um, when I went into this work, the Akashic Records itself, I got to meet certain people, and through the people that I met, the lovers that I came into contact with, they really opened up my mind into what is possible in a conscious relationship, whereby if two willing partners are wanting to explore sexuality together, it can be something beautiful because it is through mutual consent, it is through mutual trust and dialogue and relating beyond our primal desires, where it's something to be nurtured very beautifully. And then one of my friends said she was going to go on this tantric course, and I read the description, and I was like, "This is an orgy." Okay, people getting naked in a place, working with sexual energy, genitalia massage. I was like, that is totally an orgy. And I was like, you must be out of your mind for wanting to go for such a course because she's a lady. So my protective nature was like, I'm not going to feed you to the wolves. Something is wrong. So I told her that. Next day, I go into my Akashic Records. The Akashic Records says, go for the course. And I was like, wait a minute. I just informed her that she was crazy and she should not be doing this. And you're telling me to go for this course. Okay, maybe I'm not in the right state of mind. We'll check in again tomorrow. Same message. Go for the course. And the guidance was because this will open your world up. You have always lived a very close-eyed view about what sexuality is about. So go for the course. So I called my friend and said, I'm joining you in the course. So we're going together. And she's like, what shifted? I said, the Akashic Record said so, and I'm going to try it. So there I was, not knowing anything about this world or realm. And I said, I want the full experience. So I signed up for a private session with one of the instructors. She's a lady. So I said, okay, I want a private session. I don't know what I'm here for. Give me the whole deal. And then I stripped naked, the massage happened, and then she asked, would you like a prostate massage? And I was like, I have no idea what is a prostate massage. I don't even know where my prostate was at that moment of time. I was like, okay, let's just do it. Right. And then she put on her gloves and started to put her finger up my ass. And I was like, what did I sign up for? But there I was like, I'm here for the experience. Just give it to me. And that itself broke so many layers of what I taught sexuality about. At that moment of time when all of this was happening, I saw all the past images where I've been shamed about sexuality by my mom. It's shameful to have an erection. You cannot behave like that. You cannot do this. I saw all those images come to me, and immediately all of those broke down. Like, that was all your past programming. This is where it starts. You learn anew what sexuality is about. So immediately after that course, shortly after I did all my case studies and practice, I became a practitioner in tantric massage here in Singapore. And then subsequently, I was also invited back to assist the trainers in their training because I had a good understanding of the practice itself, and they could do with the help of male facilitators to come into the space. So this is also where I question because my then teacher only worked on women. Even though he was a male, he did not work on men. And I question why the differentiation, right? His saying is that he works better with female. But I didn't believe in that because I felt like this is something that needed to be embraced. And I could immediately notice my homophobic nature coming out, that it's wrong to work with another guy's genitalia and all of that. And the first person that I actually worked with on a male is actually my brother. So I actually did a genitalia massage for my brother and did a whole tantric massage for my brother. One of my case studies was my mom as well. So I actually did a tantric massage for my mom as well. So this really helped break down all the walls of what society deemed, actually mainstream society deemed how sex should be, sexuality should be, what are the taboos, what we shouldn't be doing. But through this whole experience, everything broke down. That, it's not wrong, it's just care and concern, held in a very sacred manner. And how do we extend that? And this journey really helped me to help other females because in this world, I feel like there are still a lot of men commoditizing females and unfortunately causing females to be sexually victimized. And through this work, it can be very healing, it can be very sacred, it can be very powerful. It's for all genders involved, okay, not only highlighting the females, but even for males as well as breaking all down homophobic natures, like all guys and guys should not be holding hands if you're not gay and stuff like that. But up to today, when I'm walking out on the street with my brother, even though we're 40-year-olds, me and my brother, I'll still be holding my brother's hands, as we walk, because that's, to me, that's what love is. It shouldn't be restricted to what society thinks, right? We have so many love languages that we can share, and one of them is definitely touch. So yeah, that's how my whole world of sexuality, and then it opened up to polyamory and being able to love and embrace people, and that our body, having cloth and clothes to wear is something that we defined that we needed, right? One point of time in my life, I was like, why would people go to a nude restaurant or eat nude or walk around naked? And then now my theory to that is, my belief in this is, why not? Why are we separated by our clothes and what we wear? Why are we so ashamed and feel like it's shameful to hide what we have? Right? Simply because it's not safe, I understand. But if it's a safe space, and hopefully we will get this in this world where people can walk around safely, just being themselves, then we can bear ourselves open and naked for everybody.
Well, we were born naked. So,
Exactly.
yeah. But wow, that's like, I mean, it's one thing to go for the course and really learn and experience it, but it's actually, I feel, a step further to be able to share this work with your family. Like,
Yeah, it was not an easy question to ask, and I appreciate my family being so open to it. Can you imagine asking your parents to give them a tantric massage? And my mom was like, okay. My brother was also, okay.
wow.
I'm so blessed to have them in my life. Yeah,
Mm, wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like people will want to understand a little bit further, like what makes it a conscious experience, what makes it sacred. Because I feel like there are other practitioners out there who can bypass and like abuse this setting or environment. Like they're doing it in guise of like spirituality, but they're actually also doing the thing that's traumatized maybe the people that they're trying to help.
I think what's been my benefit is that the reason why I do my work has always been because of uplifting people. And my purpose and guidance have been very clear. And that's why I left my previous life, why I retired from the corporate world to do this. This is me and this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to uplift people, for them to be more conscious. So whenever I went into such sessions, my um, code of conduct is very strict, right? Definitely no sexual intercourse with the people. It is purely about them. Um, they can do whatever they want with permission. They can ask me, for example, if they need to touch me, if they want to kiss me during the session, a peck is okay, but no exchange of fluids and everything. Those are my very strict boundaries, and I uphold them very closely. Okay, I can take off my top, but my bottoms will always be on. You can touch me anywhere you want, even my penis and everything. And I will get aroused in such session. If not, I'm seriously not a male because there's a beautiful lady. But it's really my intentions and how I act on those intentions, right? So the whole intention is always to support the person that I'm working with, male or female, and for them to discover more about their sexuality, for them to understand what pleasure is capable of, what it is to be able to reconnect with this body. Because a lot of times in people who have gone through sexual assaults or sexual abuse, the body shuts down and they go into a state of numbness, and it deprives them of a simple pleasure that the body was always designed to receive, which is sexual pleasures, right? Um, so this really helped a lot of my friends who I've worked with, who previously were not capable of even an orgasm because it was shameful for them having gone through the things, to enjoying what sex is able to bring to the table. So some sessions are as simple as just giving a person a hug, and that was all I needed to do because the person has never hugged truthfully in their life because the parents never gave her a hug. Her culture didn't allow it, and she gave it to her children very mechanically because that was the right thing to do. That was how children need to feel love, so she just gave it, but she didn't really receive it for what it was. So it can be as gentle instead, or it can be as extensive as giving a person a yoni massage to resensitize the yoni to pleasures and what the human body is capable of in a safe container. And the safe container is so important. So for me, it was always about coming back to my intention and what am I here to do? It was always about the person in front of me versus what I felt and what was coming from me. And there was really no time when I felt like I wanted to be in on the action because being able to hold that space itself is such a sacred opportunity, such a blessing to be even in such a space where somebody is really able to bear themselves open and naked for you to work with them. So it's been such an honor to have such opportunities.
I feel like it's so layered too. I mean, like, yeah, people are going to be so vulnerable when they step into that sort of session, right? Because, like you said, they're burying themselves open. And I feel like it also speaks to, like, it's really important to have those boundaries as a practitioner, as well as the practice itself. It holds so much taboo because in the outside world, a lot of it doesn't feel, there's a lot of, or rather lack of safety, that we end up suppressing our expression, suppressing, the way that we are. So I feel like this practice really helps open up all these different layers, this finding that resense, like what, how do you say, refinding or reconnecting back to that sense of safety within the self and then within the body, which is so important as like multidimensional human beings, as like spiritual beings, spirit beings living in a human body, because we literally are moving through this life because we have a physical body, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it is as much as you can be safe in your body, how do you feel safe in the environment, right? So the first step is being able to be safe with somebody that you might feel sexually preyed on, right? If you can first develop that trust, there needs to be a stepping stone. There needs to be at least one person that you feel like you can extend this trust to. Then you can extend it to the next person and the next person and so on, such that hopefully it will be that you're able to trust most people on the street with discernment, obviously,
Yeah.
right? So you're not going to be a lamb for people to prey on, but really to be able to say, I can feel safe because I trust this person, and just be yourself. And that is such a beautiful gift and not something that we can always get out in society for sure. So having that small container, working with small number of peoples to be able to give this to people, it has really been such a blessing and honor to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing, Noel.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, lastly, your sound medicine, your gong bath. Can you share a little bit more about that work?
Yeah. So I stepped into sound healing. I had my first Tibetan bowl back in 2016. 2016, yes. So when I embraced the Akashic Records, one of the things that I embraced into was also learning how to work with the sing bowls. So I had my first class workshop in 2016, and I got myself a very ancient bowl, which is still sitting on my altar. And I didn't think much of it because I felt like this was this was such a subtle tool. It doesn't lead to deep transformation, compared to what Akashic Records, Kundalini Yoga, or even the tantric work was able to do. This was very, very subtle. People just lie there and they receive. And then one day, through the guidance of the Akashic Records, I got this message of learning the gongs. And we were given the opportunity when Don Conru, the great grand gong master, I think then he was 88 or 89. He was going to offer one of his final trainings in the UK. And this was just after COVID opened its doors. So it's the first training after COVID. And there were 60 participants. And when I got that message, I went up to my wife Fiona and said, "Hey, would you actually like to learn the gongs?" Because all of a sudden I had this calling. So I checked in with her first because she's the one who has been predominantly working with sound. And I never really got too much involved. I left it to her domain. And she felt into it. And it's like, let's do it. If we can get a spot, then we'll do it. So when we registered, it was full. We had to be on the waiting list. And almost immediately, two slots freed up. And within the next few hours, they messaged me, okay, you're in. And I was like, here we go. We're going to make it happen. So we flew over to the UK. We had 10 days of training there, and it transformed my life view about the gongs. I always thought that I would never get a gong. Having gone through many gong baths myself, I thought it was always too big, clunky, expensive. But once again, with the guidance of the Akashic Records, I was shown that Akash itself, the matter itself, transmits best through sound. So it was such an interesting journey because, if not because of Kundalini Yoga, and Kundalini Yoga, we work a lot with the gongs. It was one of the primary tools that the founder himself used to work with drug addicts to break their addictions. But back then I never worked with the gongs, so I just used whatever I could to work with, usually recordings, to work through the gongs. But this was always in my lineage, that gongs were part of it. And Don Conroe himself was actually the fifth disciple of Yogi Bhajan, who was the founder of the lineage of Kundalini Yoga that I practice. And he was assigned to be the master of gongs. So I went to learn from him, wanting to learn how his journey through Kundalini Yoga and the work of the gongs. So it's been such a blessing. Since then, we've brought the gongs back to Singapore. We have been doing pujas year after year ever since we stepped back in. We came back in 2022. We had our first puja in 2023, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So we've done 4 pujas. And now I share the work of the gongs because I do understand it's a tool of transformation. A lot of people work with sound healing, sadly, only on a very superficial level for deep relaxation. And that's beautiful, don't get me wrong, because we don't get to relax enough. But there is so much more that sound healing is capable of. It can help break traumas, it can heal sexual wounds, everything is possible through the sound. So now I share the work with the gongs. And I think this really brings everything to a complete picture, whereby it's given me a good repertoire of tools to share with people. For people who just are passive, the gongs are the greatest entry tool to just receive sound healing. You just lie there passively. And we have had people after the journey come up to me and Fiona and say, I don't know what just happened, but I saw so many images of me being in different dimensions. This has never happened before. What is going on? I've had people walk up to me after a gong bath and just constantly tearing. And they're like, I don't even understand why I'm crying. I'm so happy today. I did my Pilates, I had brunch, and right now when I'm talking to you, I'm crying. I'm not even sad, but I'm still crying. I still don't even know why. So it's so beautiful to see such healing just take place on itself. And of course, when people are wanting to do the deeper work of connecting with their body, Kundalini Yoga is available to them. And if they really want to work direct with Source, then the Akashic Records is available.
How do you feel like all of this becomes Noel? Like Noel's medicine expressed through these modalities? Because these are the modalities in which your medicine is being like expressed through. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Everything that I'm sharing is being shared because it has transformed my life. So I'm only doing it because it has done so for me, and I can only extend what has been real for me. It will be inauthentic if I start sharing something that I've never benefited from, right? That I don't practice more so every day in my life. That's something that I connect with, right? So I'm only sharing me, right? Parts of myself that if you want, that is available. So yes, there's still the so-called spiritual part of me where it's all this, but if you wish to talk about finance, we can always talk about that, and any other areas that I'm fascinated about. It's just my way of extending. And we can also talk about, sexual conscious relationships or conscious sexuality, even though it's not something that I actively practice now. It's something that I'm still very passionate about and I strongly believe in. So always happy to have dialogues, conversations, and practices for people to experience what all of this is capable of.
Mm. And like on a collective scale, because like yeah, Gong, you share it, like you can share it in like big groups. Akashic Records, I suppose it's one on one, and then
Also,
yeah, also, and then Tantra, I guess it could be a combination of both, but you
yes.
have to practice it. How do you feel like, because it's such personal work, right? How do you feel like it helps the collective as like each individual moves through, the gritty parts of this work?
For me, I think it's about giving people an experience because that's how it started for me. It was always an experience. And if they resonate with the experience and want to go deeper, at least they know that there are resources, there are classes, there are lessons that are available for them. The work is never to convince, but it's just to be made available and aware that such resources are available. I think back in the day, such resources were a bit more restrictive. We didn't have the age of technology and media to be able to quickly go onto Instagram, type in a keyword, and then you can find something, or even into AI nowadays, or even Google. So, with what I provide is an experience, it's providing foods that people can take a bite into. If they like it, they're welcome to have the whole garden that they can play with or to go deeper into their exploration and journey as I go through mine. Because even all of this, I would say if I need to give them up one day, I'm more than happy to if it no longer resonates with me. And that can happen anytime in my life. And who knows? So just open to always change. Because I honestly believe that that is the only constant. So to never be attached, be it the Akashic Records, who have already done such big transformative work for me, the gongs, and back then was my business, which I felt had transformed so many lives just simply through conscious eating, and which I really think is the lowest hanging fruit in terms of receiving consciousness. So I was ready to give up on that. I'm ready to give up any aspects of myself which I feel like is no longer a part of me in this journey. So, and willing to embrace new ones as they come in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed about what you shared and all the different things that you offer, it's not really as, it's not like incredibly complex because it's so foundational. A lot of the things that I feel like you share and you teach, they're very foundational, which is actually the most important part before we can, expand.
Yes, and I think that is very important. So I usually run this workshop called the Awakening Consciousness Workshop. And all we do is work on the basics. First thing, be brief. You're a breath worker as well. So to be able to simply be conscious of the breath every moment of every day, like how are you breathing right now? If you're able to bring that consciousness into the breath, that really transforms your life very, very drastically. And then the next thing is sound and vibration, because that is also something very subtle, right? How can we use the sound and vibration to change ourselves? Simply by humming. This already has a very good calming effect on the vagus nerve. So it's not rocket science. And if you're able to feel that vibration and connection with sound, you can extend it towards sound healing. Then it's deeper awareness of the body itself. How do we move energies within the body? How do we channel? How do we open up the body's nervous system to be able to receive more, to calm down the nervous system, and to be able to handle more stress in our life? And lastly, it's about the mind, the ability to meditate and go into that stillness, that zone of quietness or nothingness as we meditate, and how to come into a space of neutrality rather than being polarized by the many things in our lives or duality in our life. So yes, I think all these are very tangible stuff. You don't even need tools. You've got your own voice, you've got the breath that is available, and assume that we're all humans and have a body, maybe not fully able, but it's a body that we can work with. And thankfully, we have a sound mind that we can meditate with. So yeah, I think that these are very low-hanging fruits for people to actually start before we go into something more abstract like the Akashic Records that sometimes feels a bit out of reach to most people, but it really starts with the body.
And
Mm.
as we slowly begin to close out, I actually wanted to ask for like words of wisdom, but there's so much that you shared right now. But if you wanna, wise Noel, but there's so much that you already shared actually. But if there's anything more that you would like to add for people who maybe are just getting into this work or like speaking to that version of you before you stepped into this work or when you were early on this path.
I think for what I see a lot of people lacking is devotion. And what are they devoted to? My own experience has been the divine is what truly guides the way. You can call it God, you can call it universe. That has been always my lighthouse, my guide in this world, and I trust and surrender. And it has brought about so much liberation in my life, opened up so many doors of opportunities, traveling the world with a backpack and my suitcase, bartering my services for hotel stays, bartering my services for paragliding, um, going to places that I don't even understand why I needed to be there. And then it all just slowly opened up and transpired. So having this kind of trust in, I guess, myself. So if I had to extend that wisdom, build that trust in yourself. It's not about arrogance. It's not about the ego speaking, but know that as human beings, we are capable of a lot. And then slowly extending, hopefully, this trust into the divine. Once you have yourself, sure that you're able to navigate yourself out of any situation that you can put yourself into, then why not trust the divine to guide you and then see what doors opens up. So I like to return to this part of devotion. What are you devoted to? And to listen, right? Listen to your heart, listen to your soul, listen to the universe, listen to all the subtle messages that are being sent and all that care and love that is being showered onto us humans. So yeah, that is what I think I feel like sharing at this moment of time.
Beautiful. Thank you, Noel. Thank you,
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank you. Oh, if there's anything you want to share or how people can find you.
Yes, you can find me on my newly developed website, which was put into publish yesterday. So it's on noeltuan.com. You can also find me at the Ark. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on most popular social media platforms, including TikTok. right? And I look forward to connecting with everybody.
Yay, amazing. Thank you so much, Noel, for sharing
And thank you
yourself
so
and your
much for
wisdom.
putting this together, Melvina. You've been
Of
such a
course.
blessing. Thank you so
Aw,
much.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us for this episode of Rising with Gaia. I hope this conversation offered you new perspectives, reflections, and reminders of your own journey. And if this episode resonated with you, please follow, subscribe, and feel free to share it with someone who might appreciate it too. So until next time, thank you for being here and thank you for being part of this collective journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.